Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday's Tech Talk. So as many of you know, today we're going to be talking about customer acquisition and market segmentation. So really what we're looking at is, where do Sparkster's customers come from, and why are people going to be using the products and tools that Sparkster is working on creating? So what I'd really like to do is I'd like to start by understanding what today's market is. So a lot of people have, they question our vision with regards to no code. They say that people won't use no code solutions. And the first thing that I want to do is dispel that idea. So let's look at the existing market today. Let me try and share my screen here. So today there exists a market in low code. So there's really two markets. There's the low code market and the no code market. And what you're really looking at, hopefully, is a chart that's created by a company called Gartner. Gartner is a research firm that puts out information that compares competitors within newly or growing industries. And so they have this thing in the top corner, what they call the magic quadrant. These are companies that are both leaders and visionaries in their own space, right? Now, we're not part of this chart because we don't have a released product from something that's publicly available yet. But let's take a look at who is here. So there are many companies that are playing in the low code space. Some companies that you may have heard of: Oracle, Salesforce, maybe you've heard of Zoho, but there's other companies that are, part of leading this space, such as OutSystems and Mendix. So what's really interesting about Mendix and OutSystems is that, for example, in Mendix's case, Mendix was recently acquired, very recently, as you can see, by Siemens, right? And another competitor here called OutSystems recently received, this is in June, received a $360 million investment from two investors, and that round was led by Goldman Sachs. So the real question here should be, why would companies like Siemens and Goldman Sachs be investing hundreds of millions of dollars into companies that are in this low-code space? And what is this low-code space all about? And how is Sparkster different to them? So the first thing is that, the low-code space is focused actually just on software developers. And the intention behind the low-code space is to improve developer productivity. And what that means is they aim to help developers grow faster. So what am I saying? Help developers build technology faster. And the way they do that is by eliminating the need to build architecture. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they eliminate the need to actually define what the software does and how the software works. So one of the key differences between, I think, everybody on this chart, as far as I know, and Sparkster, is that you still need to write code to be able to define what your application does and how it behaves. And most importantly, those tools that they've created are focused on developers. That means that an ordinary person really cannot walk up to these tools and begin using them without significant training. So what we're saying is that Sparkster operates in an adjacent industry called the no-code space. And what the low-code space delivers is it delivers, say, 10 to 20 times an improvement in developer productivity. That means it's 10 or 20 times faster to build software using existing low-code tools, right? And in our own testing, when we've compared traditional development with Sparkster's tools, we found that there's at least 100x improvement in the performance in building applications, right? So we have a 5 to 10x improvement on existing tools out there in the market today. So naturally, we're aware of what Salesforce and OutSystems and Oracle and Mendix are doing. We've looked at their tools, and we obviously think that we can disrupt this existing industry. But the key takeaway here that I want you guys to understand is that when people say people won't build applications, in a no-code fashion or in a low-code fashion, and that what Sparkster is trying to do isn't going to materialize, well, my argument against that is that there are companies that already have funding and existing products from companies like Goldman Sachs, right, and Siemens, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have existing customers. This company has almost 1,000 employees. But again, when you're a startup, it's not about how big you are; it's about how disruptive your technology is and how effectively you can communicate that to the industry. Now, one thing that we're working on, one thing that Shabir is actively working on, is that we meet with teams of software developers. In particular, we're focused on software developers that are building software using Microsoft technologies. C# is the language in particular. And the reason that we focused in on, this is the market segmentation part. The reason that we focused in on C# Microsoft developers is that these are people that are, generally speaking, building business applications, right? They're building applications within a company. And we think that they are a key group of people that we could have a substantial impact on. So we go to their conferences, what Shabir does. He meets with developers in that community frequently, and we're in communication with those types of people, talking about, understanding their requirements, understanding what our product does, explaining our product to them so that we can build a product that they love. And that's really the key behind what our marketing strategy is. It's build a product that people love. And, products that people love combined with some marketing from PR agencies and other marketing firms can really propel us very far. So the other market segment that we're looking at, apart from this low-code space, is the no-code space. So if you think about it, low-code aims to serve 1% of people in the company. These are just the software developers. And all these companies and all this money is focused just on software developers, right? But within a company, as you know, there's many, many more people that are today solving problems using spreadsheets. And these are people that might be in human resources, they might be in purchasing, they might be in accounting, they might be in production planning. These are guys that are using spreadsheets when the tools that the company provides doesn't quite meet the needs that they have, or doesn't enable them to solve their problem directly. So I'm sure in your place of work, you've experienced plenty of spreadsheets. Well, the way I think about this is that these are the future developers, the future software developers of the world that Sparkster aims to empower. So there are really three problems, and there's actually a page that I might be able to help you with. Right? There are three key problems that there are with spreadsheets. The first key problem is that they take a significant amount of time to keep updated every day. They're not naturally, or generally speaking, they're not naturally connected to the company's ERP software or Salesforce, the company's sales automation software, or whatever software the company's using. So there's a lot of work that goes into collecting data and keeping your spreadsheets updated every day. That might take several hours, right, of one person's morning, for example. Another thing is that spreadsheets bring about different versions of truth. So for example, I have a spreadsheet that's got my data on it that I keep updated, that's got my calculations and my information. You have your own spreadsheets, right? And none of that's synchronized. So if I'm updating my spreadsheet, your spreadsheet isn't being updated, right? Meaning if I'm adding my own information to my spreadsheet, that may impact. So for example, let's say I'm making decisions about how much inventory to buy next month, right? And you're in production planning. Well, because it would be very useful for you to know how much inventory I'm planning or how many sales I'm expecting to have, how many customers we're expecting to have if you're in production planning. But because we're using spreadsheets to make these decisions, you don't have access to my information, right? If I send that to you, if I email my spreadsheet to you, now you've got maybe an outdated version because I'm continuing to update my spreadsheet and you have a version that's outdated, right? And traditionally speaking, in the majority of organizations in the world, they're using Microsoft spreadsheets to solve this problem. The spreadsheet tool is Microsoft Excel. So that leads us on to the third problem here, which is that sharing is risky because you end up with different versions of truth. When I share it with someone and they start making their changes and they drop in, copy and paste some stuff into that spreadsheet and send it to somebody else, well, that copying and pasting might break some of the formulas, right, that I've created. And now the third person has completely erroneous information. So these are really the problems, the woes of spreadsheets. And this is obviously something that we've outlined on the site. So what am I really saying here? I'm saying that there are plenty of people that when empowered with the tools to be able to build software would want to build software because they experience the frustration of these problems. And these are this is the sort of information, the customer groups and where they are and who they are and where to identify them. This is what we're working with the various agencies that we're interviewing. So if you're going to take something away from today's tech talk, in summary, it would be that the low-code space is a burgeoning space. It's a new and developing space. If anyone doubts that the future of software development is moving to something certainly less, where there's less code, and eventually I believe there'll be no code. There are competitors that are in this industry that you'll know of, Salesforce and Oracle. The leaders in this industry are being acquired by Mendex and are receiving significant sums of funding from companies like Goldman Sachs, right? Goldman Sachs is a pretty conservative company. If they're investing in this space, that should tell you that they believe that there's a big future, right? Traditional companies, they're not leaders in this space, for example, like Oracle, right? Maybe even Fujitsu. So it tells you that smaller companies can come along, new companies, and create an entirely disruptive trend. And that's what we're doing. The no-code space is 5 to 10 times more productive and more efficient than the low-code space. So you're looking at the low-code space, right? And our own tests suggest the software can be built 100 times faster than traditional software development. And we're not just solving the problem of removing architecture, but also in enabling, making the functionality, describing what the software does easily accessible. And you don't need to know about software development because Sparkster's language is plain English in simple blocks that you snap together, right? And that's how it's easy to describe what your software does. And who are these customers outside of the software development industry? Yes, we're going to serve the software development industry, and we're going to significantly improve developer productivity over what these incumbents are doing. But there's also a significantly larger market for us. And one of those areas is in people who are using spreadsheets today as the glue between business applications. And therefore, we're reaching out to 99% of people versus just 1% of software developers. So these are our thoughts on kind of market segmentation. These are the areas that we're focusing our attention on, what would in Silicon Valley be called beachhead markets. These are the beachhead markets that we're exploring, and we think that they're incredibly valuable. All companies today pay for spreadsheet tools. They pay for Microsoft Excel or Google, right? Many companies are paying for tools like Salesforce and such, right? We're looking to help them achieve their objectives in a way that's much easier, better, faster, and deals with some of those problems. So that's it for today. I appreciate your time, everybody, and I'll see you soon in the Telegram group.